Welcome to the video representation video tutorial for the Final Cut Pro timeline and canvas windows. The timeline is perhaps the most important window in the Final Cut Pro interface. This is where you will actually construct your movie of all the clips that you saved and edited. In fact, you can do more editing in the timeline once you've placed those clips as well. The canvas is primarily a passive window that plays the video that you've constructed here in the timeline. So if I take the playhead in the timeline, set it to the beginning of the cow practice clip and play it, you'll see that the canvas is the place where it plays. We've already learned to bring clips into the timeline from the viewer. Clips can also be brought in directly from the browser quite easily as well. If I simply drag and drop a clip from the browser into the timeline, I can place it anywhere that I like. In the timeline, I can play clips in the same fashion I would play them in the viewer or even in the canvas. The space bar will play and stop. The J, K, and L keys will play it forwards and backwards. The arrow keys can move me forward a frame at a time. And the up and down arrows can be very handy in the timeline as they jump to the next edit point, either down for the next edit point ahead or up for the next edit point back. This is a very fast way to move rapidly through different edit points in your timeline. I can change the view of the clips in the timeline by zooming in to get a finer look at edits. By grabbing, first of all, either this small zoom slider, that's this piece here, the small tick with the different metered marks. Dragging it left to right will zoom in or out. I can also choose the magnifying glass from the tool palette, either by clicking it directly or by pressing Z. I can then place the magnifying glass at the point on the timeline I want to zoom in on and click, and it will zoom in quite close. To zoom out, I can double click Z and again click my way out. Moving clips within the timeline is quite easy. Simply drag and drop. We can place clips end to end or butt them together. We can also stack them. Stacking clips is another way of making edits that can be a useful addition to simply sequential butting. One thing to know about stacking clips is that it's only the topmost video that will play in the canvas when we watch the video. The rest of the video, anything below, will be masked. So if I play ahead this video, we can see that the cows piece placed over the Windows piece displaces the Windows video. Sound is a different matter. All soundtracks play all the time, so that none of the soundtracks are ever masked, only the video. I can trim my video clips in a couple of ways in the timeline. One you know about, using the razor blade. I can either click the razor blade here or tap B to make a cut and then delete unwanted portions. Or a slightly more crude but much faster way is simply to grab the end of a piece of footage, click it, and drag it. I can extend the footage out as long as there's video left to give. I can also trim it in the same fashion. This again is rather crude, but it's pretty handy for rough and fast edits. When placing clips end to end, you'll notice that once they're butted together, small arrows appear at the top and bottom of the edit. These small arrows indicate that the clips are in fact touching, that there is no gap between them. This is important because when small gaps are left, they appear as blackout screens when the videos play forward. They're very distracting and non-aesthetic. So watch for these small arrows when you butt your clips together to ensure that they're touching. You're getting help in moving those clips to keep them butted from one feature here in the top right of the timeline called snapping. You can turn snapping on and off by clicking on these two small flashers or by tapping the N key. Green is on, black is off. It's best to leave snapping on in order to help ensure that gaps are closed. And snapping works like this. When you grab a clip to drag it close to another clip, at some point, once they get close, it will magically jump, like a magnet will, and be stuck in a perfectly butted together edit. This will help save you from leaving edit gaps in your timeline, which can be an incredible hassle and terribly ugly. There are times when it's better to have free reign and not use the snapping tool, so you can make much finer tuned edits. But by and large, it's much more functional to keep the snapping tool turned on. It will save you lots of grief. These are the basics of the timeline and canvas windows. I'm sure you'll find them very useful. So get cracking.